Welcome back to the channel. So, it may be April 1st, but this is no April Fool's joke. We're going to be going over 50 CPU facts. Hopefully, I can find some CPU facts that you haven't heard of before. So, stick around and let me know in the comment section below whether or not you learned something from this video. Let's get her done. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. Simple. For the first one, we got to go off of the basics. CPU just stands for Central Processing Unit. CPU, or also known as the Central Processing Unit, is also known as the brains of the computer. That is what most people call it, and it works as is the brain. It is a command. Our brain does command, goes through our sensors, as in our nervous system and other parts of the body, to communicate with the rest of the body. So brain to body. Basically the same thing for the CPU. The first commercial CPU was the Intel 4004, and that was released back in 1971. CPUs process instructions using fetch, decode, execute cycle. The clock speed measured in gigahertz determines how fast a CPU operates. Modern CPUs have multiple cores, allowing them to handle multiple tasks at once. So more cores, more tasks at once. If you enable hyper-threading, that can give you extra threads or more multitasking capabilities out of a CPU. CPUs use binary ones and zeros to process data, unlike quantum computers that do not use this process. The main components of a CPU are the ALU, arithmetic logic unit, control unit, and registers. A CPU's cache memory is much faster than a GPU's, but much smaller. CPUs generate heat, which you need cooling for, either air cooling or liquid cooling, AIOs, or custom water loops. You can also go to the extreme and use dry ice and or liquid nitrogen. And the top of the line for cooling is liquid helium. Modern CPUs are built using nanometer, so NM, nanometer process nodes. So really small compared to back in the day. Smaller process nodes mean higher efficiency and lower power consumption. So right now, one of the smallest ones out there is by Intel, and that is the 18A and 18AP node, or the 1.8 nanometer transistor. CPUs are made of billions of transistors. Transistors in modern CPUs are measured in nanometers. So example, Intel 10 nanometer, TSMC 3 nanometer. But now Intel has been working on, for the past almost 2 years, the 1.8 nanometer transistor, or the 18A and 18AP node. CPUs use instruction sets like x86, ARM, and RISC-V. The ALU performs all mathematical and logical operations. The control unit directs operations inside the CPU. CPU registers are small storage locations inside the CPU for quick data access. Some CPUs have integrated graphics, or also known as an iGPU. So instead of using a discrete graphics card, it has an integrated graphics card. So instead of buying like a brand new 5090, some CPUs have a built-in iGPU or integrated graphics. These may not be as powerful as some of the newest GPUs, but they work. Hyper-threading, Intel and SMT, AMD, allow one core to handle 2 threads. Overclocking increases a CPU's processing speed beyond factoring settings. A higher clock speed means faster performance, but also higher power draw. So as you raise the clock speed and the performance of a CPU, there's generally a deficit, as in you get a higher power draw. Also, it would depend on the cooling you have on how far you can overclock a CPU. Some CPUs have unlocked multipliers for easier overclocking. Example, Intel K series and AMD X series. AMD also has overclock potential over on their non-X series, but Intel is just for their K, KF, and KS series. CPUs have thermal throttling, reducing speed when they overheat. So as the CPU gets too hot past its operating max thermal limits, it will downclock itself, and also the core voltage will also go down with it to make sure it does not thermal throttle. TDP, or thermal design power, indicates how much heat a CPU generates. CPU bottlenecking happens when the CPU limits GPU performance. Single-threaded performance matters for games, while multi-threaded performance is crucial for tasks like video editing. So the more cores help video editing. That's why I recommend multi-core CPUs or a 16-core, 32-thread CPU for video editing and or content creators. Cache memory, L1, L2, and L3 significantly affect CPU's performance. CPUs communicate with other components through the front side bus, or also known as the FSB, or Affinity Fabric, which is by AMD. Benchmarking software like Cinebench, Geekbench, and 3D Mark measures CPU performance. There are multiple different benchmarks on 3D Mark, but you can also test out the performance of your CPU on that as well. The main desktop CPU makers are Intel, AMD, and Apple. AMD introduces 64-bit processing to consumer CPUs with the Athlon 64 in 2003. ARM CPUs are commonly used in smartphones, tablets, and Apple M series chips. AMD Ryzen series came out in 2017, brought them back into competition with Intel. The Pentium 4 was one of Intel's longest running CPU families. The fastest consumer CPU in 2024 was AMD's Ryzen 9 7950X 3D with its 3D V-cache. Intel Core i9 series target high-performance computing and gaming. Threadripper CPUs have up to 64 cores for extreme workloads. Intel's 14th gen and AMD Ryzen 7000 series use DDR5 RAM. Server CPUs like Intel Xeon and AMD focus on data centers and enterprise workloads. The world's first 1 GHz CPU was the AMD Athlon in 2000. The fastest CPU ever overclocked reached 9.12 gigahertz per second. And that was the 14900KF. And the one below that was a 14900KS at 9.1 gigahertz. Also done by Elmore Labs. Apple's M series chips use a hybrid ARM architecture for efficiency. CPUs can last over 10 years, but become obsolete much faster. The PlayStation 3 uses Cell processor, co-developed by Sony, IBM, and Toshiba. Some high-end CPUs cost over $10,000. Examples are the Xeon and Platinum series, also the Gold series. Quantum CPUs like those from IBM and Google are in experimental stages. The Core i7 branding was introduced in 2008. Dark silicon refers to the part of a CPU that can't be powered on at the same time due to heat limits. CPUs are often binned, meaning better performing chips at lower voltages get sold at higher end models. This is kind of not a thing nowadays. You can generally just buy the KS for a better CPU. It is slightly a bin chip, but you can just guarantee you're getting a bin chip. You can get bin CPUs, or back in the day, you can get bin CPUs from either retailers and or overclockers. They would sell chips that are binned, or they bought many of them and sold the best of the best for a price. And that is 50 CPU facts. Hopefully you guys learned something off it. If you did, leave me in the comment section below. If you now have subscribed to this channel, definitely think about that. Leave a like and comment in the video as well. If you'd like to join the Discord channel, click that Discord channel link. If you have not checked out the Patreon page, you guys should definitely check that out as well. I do take via donations through PayPal. So if you'd like to do that and help out the channel, or if you'd like to join the channel to help out the channel as well, that is always appreciated as well. And that's it for 50 CPU facts. Again, hopefully you guys learned something. And as always, don't forget to get her doing.